When we see cordon bleu on a plate, a juicy schnitzel with a golden, crispy crust, hiding cheddar, melted cheese and ham inside, we think it's simply a clever culinary combination. But history is never linear. Hi, my name is Diana. In this video, you will see once again that any great dish isn't just the chef's imagination. It's the final point where dozens of events and circumstances converge, from politics and marketing to complex engineering discoveries. The dish reflects the spirit of its time and changes along with society. Right now, I reveal some unexpected twists in history. And then, Sergey will demonstrate how easy cordon bleu is to prepare. Taste history with Chef and Scribe. The name Le Cordon Bleu means blue ribbon in French. These days, it's synonymous with haute cuisine, and the name of a culinary arts institute, and the name of a popular cookbook and magazine. But once things were quite different. Back in 1578, Henry III of France founded an elite order of knights. Acquiring the coveted blue ribbon through a single feat was impossible. It was Europe's most exclusive club, where the tickets to entry was personal courage, the highest service to the crown, and of course, blue blood, an impeccable noble pedigree of at least 3 generations. Its knights didn't simply serve the crown. They were the elite of France's elite, princes of blood, haughty dukes, and adamant marshals, those whose domain already stretched beyond the horizon. With the order, acquired the status of true demigods. This ribbon became a symbol of unattainable superpower. On the shoulders of the chosen few lay not only heavy velvet robes, but also astronomical royal pensions, obsolete monopolies, and the sweetest of privileges, complete unconditional exemption from taxes. Gold flowed like a river, and the blue ribbon on their chest shone like a sign of exclusivity, forever separating them from mere mortals. The order's military achievements were legendary. Their victories at lavish feasts were known as Le Cordon Bleus. The feasts lasted for days and even weeks. The scale of the feasts symbolized the scope and power of France. It's no surprise that where there is demand and big money, competition among the best of the best rises. The finest chefs from all over Europe competed for the right to cook at these balls, and the feast became culinary battles of giants of culinary art, with the most astonishing and exquisite dishes. But how did a symbol of absolute power become the name of a popular schnitzel? Legend has it that King Louis XV bade Madame du Barry that a woman could not prepare a dish worthy of a king. Du Barry invited her cook, who prepared a fantastic dinner, and thus she became Louis XV's court chef, and received from the king the Order of the Blue Ribbon, the highest honor and recognition of exceptional culinary talent. Over time, this title spread and became synonymous with excellence in any field. In 1895, almost 3 centuries after the establishment of the cordon bleu, French journalist Martin Destel founded a professional culinary magazine and gave it the familiar name La Cuisinière Cordon Bleu. Naturally, on its pages, chefs shared their professional secrets and explained the intricacies of preparing various dishes. Some readers were given the opportunity to take a personal, hands-on lesson. And just a year later, Le Cordon Bleu Culinary School opened. Thus, the name became synonymous with chefs who had mastered the highest culinary skills in modern times. The rest of the mystery surrounding the name is inextricably linked to its history. But the paradox of history is that the dish, bearing this haughty French name, was on board in the glittering palaces of Paris. And it didn't appear in the time of kings, but quite recently, in the mid-20th century. According to the most credible version, its birthplace is pragmatic Switzerland of the 1940s. Legend has it that a large group unexpectedly showed up at a restaurant in the small town of Brig. There were woefully insufficient portions of tender veal for Wiener Schnitzel, so the chef resorted to a brilliant culinary trick. He slit the thin pieces of meat, available using the butterfly technique, opening them like a book to maximize the surface area, and he filled the resultant void with whatever was at hand, a local Swiss cheese and slices of juicy ham. But there is another, even more exciting version, which takes us back to the original meaning of the blue ribbon. The award, 1929. The luxury German transatlantic liner Bremen sets a world record for the fastest crossing of the Atlantic. For this, the ship receives the most prestigious challenge prize, the very same blue ribbon. To celebrate his triumph, the captain orders the chef to immediately serve something special, a dish worthy of this record. And the chef, a Swiss by birth, served the captain a breaded pocket of meat with melted cheese inside, ceremoniously naming it Blue Ribbon in honor of the award. Which of these stories is true? Our opinion. The legend of the chef trying to save meat for unexpected guests is possible. Cordon Bleu requires half the amount of prime veal required for classic Wiener Schnitzel, but the presence of cheese and ham in the recipe suggests that the chef had a wider range of ingredients at his disposal and could have offered other dishes from the menu rather than experimenting on short notice. On the other hand, the history of the transatlantic liner Bremen's triumph is also dubious. In July 1929, having won the Blue Ribbon, the ship arrived in New York. More than 3,000 people were on board, including reporters eager for a sensational story. Tickets for the return voyage were instantly sold out to reporters and others eager to experience the record-breaking ship. If a new, remarkable dish had truly been created in honor of the record, it would have immediately made headlines, and thousands of passengers disembarking would have clamored for it in restaurants in Manhattan and the city of Bremen, Germany. But the press remained silent. Our version. The real story of Cordon Bleu may be much more pragmatic. The ruthless Swiss Cheese Union is behind the creation of Cordon Bleu. In the mid-20th century, the Swiss Cheese Union reigned supreme in the country, an organization operating as a true monopoly and cartel. It's well known today. In the 1930s, the Swiss Cheese Union took a little-known Alpine dish, fondue, modified and standardized it, and then, through aggressive marketing, transformed it into a global gastronomical brand. Cordon Bleu seems like their next, more elegant step. In the 1940s, the cartel enjoyed an absolute monopoly. It dictated production volumes to farmers and tightly controlled the entire market. The union could easily have issued an ultimatum to restaurateurs: either artificially increase your kitchen's cheese consumption or be left without supplies. Hiding a generous slice of cheese inside a popular schnitzel was an ideal commercial ploy, stimulating consumption without direct advertising. The strategy worked instantly. The recipe quickly took over restaurants' menu, and by 1949, the popular foodie Harry Schrimley had documented the Cordon Bleu in his book on status food, From Lucullus to Escoffier. In this book, Cordon Bleu is presented as cheese wrapped in thin slices of aromatic ham, wrapped in a veal cutlet, and fried in breadcrumbs in a generous amount of butter. In any case, this is just another version, and the choice is yours. If you like these twists and turns, support our project by subscribing to the channel and give it a like. This is where the main historical confusion arises. Many still believe that the recipe was first published by the famous Dillon Lucas in her book, The Cordon Bleu Cookbook. But if you open that book, you won't find this recipe. Lucas brought the brand and the fashion for classic French cuisine to the United States. This recipe was also not included in her next book, the Dillon Lucas Meat and Poultry Cookbook. The Cordon Bleu recipe itself began to make headlines a little later, One of the first mentions was recorded in the Los Angeles Times in 1955. But this, again, is a widespread myth. We found a publication in the Grandeur News Herald of Henderson, Texas, USA, dated June 12, 1951. This publication describes a recipe for veal cutlet cordon bleu. We're not sure if this was the recipe's first publication in the United States, but it was one of the first drops of what was to come. Over the next 3 days, at least 81 US newspapers published the recipe of veal cutlet cordon bleu. It was a veritable storm of publications, engulfing everything from the West Coast to the East Coast. The recipe then appeared weekly in various US newspapers for several years, and cordon bleu became a kitchen hit and a breath of fresh air for North American culinary culture. For decades, cordon bleu remained an exclusive veal dish. Its transformation into chicken cordon bleu was no accident. It was born out of a calculated post-war agricultural competition. In 1945, the A&P supermarket chain, in partnership with the US Department of Agriculture, launched the National Chicken of Tomorrow program. The goal was very specific: to breed a bird with a breast as thick and meaty as turkeys, so it could be easily cut into wide steaks. Through rigorous traditional breeding, two farmers changed culinary history. In 1948, Charles Ventress introduced a cross with incredibly powerful breast muscles, and Henry Sangleo developed a breed with pure white plumage. The white color wasn't for taste, it was visual necessity. Unlike dark-feathered birds, which leave visible dark pin feathers in the skin after plucking, the white plumage ensured the carcass looked flawlessly clean on supermarket shelves. The crossbreeding of these whining lines gave the world the modern broiler chicken and the perfect canvas for chefs. To ensure this new, ideal bird quickly captured the minds and wallets of housewives, a massive propaganda film of the same name was made, The Chicken of Tomorrow. It was shown in theaters across the country, and it worked flawlessly. It was this perfect bird that forever displaced expensive veal from our plates. Besides the size of the breast and the chicken itself, the main factor in chicken's popularity was price. Chicken became cheaper than pork. Unfortunately, this is no longer the case. And here, the main factor was scientific and technological progress. Of all the above, I'd like to highlight 4 major achievements of human thoughts. 1. The vitamin revolution. Until the 1940s, chickens had to be kept outside due to their need of vitamin D, insects for animal protein, and vitamin B12. Scientists eventually discovered a way to add the supplements into the pelleted chicken's feed made from cheap corn or soy. That was quite a historic turning point. It became possible to raise chickens year-round in huge barns without sunlight or pastures. 2. Antibiotics. Farmers faced epidemics keeping thousands of birds in one barn. In 1950, small doses of antibiotics were added to the chicken feed. Surprisingly, the chickens grew faster, even consuming less feed. This growth was due to the fact that the natural energy of fighting off a potential infection led to energy going into developing muscle mass. The antibiotics instantly became the gold standard of the industry. 3. Engineering systems. To make the birds eat more and grow faster, their biological clocks had to be hacked. A strict lighting regime was introduced in hangars. By simulating long days or alternating short cycles of light and darkness, the birds were forced to wake up and constantly go to the feeder. By the 1950s, manual labor was minimized. Automatic auger feed lines and nipple drinkers appeared. Thermostatically controlled fans controlled the temperature and extracted ammonia. While previously, one person could only physically handle a few hundred chickens, with automation, A single operator could oversee tens of thousands of birds. 4. Management. In the 1950s, business pioneers like John Tyson, founder of Tyson's Foods, changed the very model of the market. They created a system of contract farming. The corporation took control of the entire chain. It owned hatcheries, feed mills, and slaughterhouses. The farmer was provided with the chicks, feed, and instructions, while the farmer provided only the shed and labor. Corporations monopolized the industry, drastically slashed costs, and were able to lower retail prices for chicken below the cost of pork and beef. A combination of the patience of breeders, the passion for chemist discoveries, the resourcefulness of engineers, and the strategic genius of managers led to chicken being transformed from an expensive Sunday dish into the cheapest animal protein in the United States by the early 1960s. It was this industrial conveyor belt that allowed chefs in the 1960s to replace premium veal with inexpensive chicken, making cordon bleu a mass market hit. The history of cordon bleu is a brilliant historical irony. The dish, named after the highest honor of the French crown, is today made with chicken, the most popular source of protein in North America. But it wasn't always so. In the 2nd century BC, ancient Rome faced the problem of insane luxury at banquets. To save public morals, the Senate passed a law that strictly limited spending on banquets and imposed an obsolete ban on serving specially fattened chickens. At that time, fat poultry was a symbol of such outrageous wealth that it threatened the foundations of the empire. 2,000 years later, progress turned this law on its head. The industrial assembly line transformed chicken from an elite symbol of luxury into a mass-produced everyday substitute for veal. Cordon bleu has evolved from nightly orders to Swiss cartels, and the storms of American newspaper coverage, eventually becoming a beloved household hit around the world. It's more than just a cheese schnitzel. It's a taste of how our civilization has changed. And with that, I bid you farewell and leave you with Sergey. I'll see you in the next videos. Bye!
Hi, I'm Sergey. Let's dive into cooking. Enjoy and see you soon!